Hey, tap into good health. I never head out without my New York City tap water. Hot outside. I urge every New Yorker to drink up. Tap water is the best. I urge every New Yorker to drink up. Tap water is the best.
Welcome back to Calculated Confusion Exposed. Today we are going to be exposing the many dangers of today's drinking water. Regardless of where you are in the world, the tap water at your disposal is probably tainted with toxins. Yet in the clip we just saw, you can see the government endorsing the people to drink water straight from the tap despite knowing the dangers. We are going to look at some clips and go over information that dives deeper into what's in our water and the effects it has on us.
Painkillers, blood thinners, and chemotherapy drugs are just some of the substances that are found in your drinking water. There's new information that some drugs are ending up in our water at levels never seen before. CBC's Kelly Crow has more on that.
There's something happening to the rainbow darter, a tiny fish that lives in the rivers of southern Ontario. If they're downstream from a sewage treatment plant, the male fish turn into females.
If you expose them to wastewater, they will feminize. They will have eggs in the testes.
What's causing the males to develop eggs? Human hormones, residue from prescription drugs that are flushed into the river. Using new highly sensitive equipment, scientists are finding an increasing variety of prescription drugs in the waterways. Painkillers, blood thinners, chemotherapy agents, hormones, antibiotics. If we swallow it, scientists can find it in the water.
Well, do you know what's in your drinking water? A shocking Associated Press investigation found various pharmaceuticals in the drinking supplies of at least 41 million Americans. Tainted water was found from New Jersey to California. NBC's Tom Costello is following the story from Washington. Tom, I've been dying to ask somebody some questions about this story. First of all, what kinds of drugs are we talking about, and how dangerous is this?
Pretty wide range. Here's the drinking water in Washington, D.C. They found 6 pharmaceuticals in our drinking water here. They include ibuprofen, caffeine, monocin, and about 3 or 4 others. In Philadelphia, they had 56 pharmaceuticals or byproducts. They range everything from epilepsy medication to mental health medicines to pharmaceuticals that really run the gamut. Here's the bottom line from the Associated Press on the study they did. It was, as you mentioned, a 5-month investigation involving the AP investigative team. 50 major cities in 50 states were looked at, and drugs were found in the water of 24 major cities. We're talking 41 million Americans here who drink that water. So what's in the water? Everything from acetaminophen and ibuprofen to mood stabilizers, antibiotics, angina, heart, as well as cholesterol drugs, and even sex hormones. The trouble here, Meek, is that the federal government does not test specifically for pharmaceuticals in the water. And in fact, there is no way to scrub water that is in a treatment plant for pharmaceuticals. And so now we have a situation where states and cities across the country are just starting to realize that there are the remnants of pharmaceuticals in the drinking water. All of that said, we should emphasize, we're talking here about parts per billion or trillion, really minute traces of pharmaceuticals that are in the water. And you say, well, how did it get there? Well, without getting too graphic, all of us who take medication for one thing or another, we don't absorb all of it. It is excreted. It gets into the sewage system, into the water treatment plants. And then, because water treatment plants can't scrub it all out, if any of it, it just kind of dilutes on into the water system. Sometimes it gets into the water table, into wildlife, and then into reservoirs. It goes back into the water treatment site, into the water treatment plants.
I wonder if there's going to be, long-term study about effects of this down the road. And, but I guess initially, Tom, the question I'm sure you're asking today is there anything the government can do about this?
Yeah, and the EPA says it's concerned about it, but we don't yet know, and water treatment utility plants say they are convinced that there is no immediate threat to anybody out there. That said, I did a story about 4 years ago in which we found a river in Colorado, and now we know there are many rivers, in which the fish were turning from male to female. And the reason was because there was too much estrogen in the water. The natural female hormone was literally turning male fish into female fish, and the thinking was that this is a canary in a coal mine. So now the question is, what's the impact on humans?
Yep, that's the next one. Tom Costello on this story from Washington. Thank you very much.
There are countless articles of companies dumping tons and tons of toxic waste in our water supply, and of course they are not given the proper consequences. In the last clip they talked about how the water corrupted the fish and the males were producing female eggs. Imagine what dangers this could be doing to the human body. People used to laugh and dismiss Alex Jones, but his claims about the frogs turned out to be true.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap. I'm sick of being social engineered. It's not funny.
The earlier clip mentioned of some of the drugs that are in our water, but the list is a lot more extensive. The United States Environmental Protection Agency's website has a TSCA chemical substance inventory report, which essentially is a list of any chemical substance that is manufactured or processed, including imports, in the United States for uses under TSCA. The first list of its kind was produced in 1979, which included 62,000 chemical substances. The numbers today totals out to a whopping 86,000 chemicals. This list includes organics, inorganics, polymers, pesticides, foods and food additives, drugs, cosmetics, tobacco and tobacco products, nuclear materials, or munitions. And in the United States, more than 180 million tons of that is dumped into our water. It should be pretty clear how this affects our body.
Cancer has been claiming lives and is one of the leading causes of death worldwide, accounting for nearly 10 million deaths in 2020. That's nearly 1 in 6 deaths. According to the World Health Organization, some of the most common forms of cancer include breast cancer, lung cancer, colon and rectum cancer, prostate cancer, and skin cancer. A new trend has come to light. Previous data had found cancer to be more prevalent among older adults, mostly people above the age of 50. But that's not the case anymore. A new review of cancer registry records from 44 countries finds that the incidence of cancer has increased across the world, specifically among the younger lot, that is, people under the age of 50. This has been observed across multiple middle and high-income countries. When cancer strikes someone under the age of 50, it is termed as early-onset cancer. The report states that younger people are being diagnosed with cancers in the breast, endometrium, esophagus, kidney, liver, and more. And this trend has been rising steadily across the world since the 1990s.
Of course, the government has also decided to douse our water with fluoride.
It's called one of the greatest achievements in public health in the 20th century, and you probably don't even realize how it affects you every day.
We're talking about water fluoridation. Fluoride is a naturally occurring element, and it's added to our water supply. But is it possible to have too much of a good thing? WLKY's Karen Roby joins us now with a closer look at why some major health organizations are recommending a reduction in the levels. Karen.
Well, Rick, the first city in the United States to adjust the amount of fluoride in the water supply was Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1950. Less than a year later, Louisville followed suit. The American Dental Association has always stood behind the practice, but now the Department for Health and Human Services, along with the EPA, is telling water companies it's time to back it down a bit. In order to talk about the fluoride levels in our area, we first had to take samples to have the water tested in an independent lab. A few ounces captured from a tap in the east end of Louisville, another sample from a faucet in the Melwood Avenue area, a short distance from the Zorn Avenue pumping station, and a third test was run from water collected in Jeffersonville, Indiana. The testing showed all 3 sites had fluoride content levels in the ideal range as determined by the U.S. Public Health Service. 0.7 to 1.2 parts per million is required. The east end of Louisville came in at 0.94, the Melwood Avenue site registered at 0.92, and Jeffersonville, Indiana in the middle at 0.93.
It helps teeth stay stronger by protecting them.
Dr. Keith Watson has been practicing dentistry for 26 years. He says the benefits of fluoride in the water supply are irrefutable.
And we found out through studies years and years ago that it strengthens the teeth and bonds into the enamel and remineralizes teeth.
So for years, dentists and health experts alike have praised the act of fluoridating water. But just a few months ago, the EPA and the Department of Health and Human Services made a recommendation that states all community water supplies should decrease the amount of fluoride down just a bit to 0.7 parts per million.
What that last report does not mention is the litany of issues that is associated with consuming fluoride over time. These issues including tooth discoloration, tooth decay, skeletal weakness, neurological problems, high blood pressure, acne, and seizures. Fluoride has also been linked to lowering sperm count as well. FluorideAlert.com has an article that covered over 60 studies on animals, including rats, mice, roosters, and rabbits, and have found that fluoride adversely impacts the male reproductive system. These studies have repeatedly found the following effects: decreases in testosterone levels, reduced sperm motility, altered sperm morphology, reduced sperm quantity, increased oxidative stress, and reduced capacity to breed.
While the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention hailed fluoride as one of the top great public health achievements, a new study raises questions about its role in children's development. The U.S. Public Health Service considers 0.7 milligrams of fluoride per liter of drinking water an optimal level, but the study in the journal JAMA Pediatrics suggests increased levels of fluoride exposure during pregnancy are associated with declines of IQ in children. Previous research shows similar findings. The study assesses more than 500 child and mother pairs. It finds for every 1 milligram per liter average increase in fluoride intake by a mother, there was a 3.7 drop in the child's IQ, regardless of gender. Katie Johnston, WBC News.
In addition to this, we now know that our water is tainted with what is known today as forever chemicals. Let's take a look into the forever chemicals that plague our water.
Clean and safe drinking water is a basic necessity that we can easily take for granted in this country. But now a group of unregulated, potentially toxic chemicals, part of American life for decades, they are being increasingly detected in the water of thousands of American communities. Tonight, what our investigation uncovered and what you can do to keep your family safe. Here's Devin Dwyer.
In the parched desert community of Tucson, Arizona, a precious natural resource is under threat.
This is what we call the inflow into the plant.
Water from the city's underground aquifer can pulse through these pipes at 10,000 gallons a minute, filtered, purified, and sent to taps in thousands of homes and businesses. But this spring, the city abruptly shut the plant down.
We know that there's this contamination out there. We don't know exactly what it does, but we know it's not going away.
Tests detected elevated levels of man-made chemicals known as per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. They're colorless, tasteless, and scientists say potentially dangerous to human health over time.
You lost confidence that these filters could take it out and guarantee the water's safe.
We don't have enough confidence to go to drinking water supply at this time using just granular activated carbon.
The indefinite shutdown turned off a source of drinking water for 60,000 residents, raising concerns about safety.
You know, there's so many memories growing up here.
Patty Daggett's old neighborhood on the city's south side is still scarred by tap water poisoned in the 1980s by an industrial spill of the chemical solvent trichloroethylene, or TCE. Daggett swam in the contaminated water as a child and drank from the tap in her home. In 2014, at age 47, she was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer, her doctor linked to the chemicals.
He said that he had, through that cytogenic test, determined that my cancer had been caused by a toxin. I'm telling you right now, I would never let any of my kids, my grandkids, anybody in my family drink water in the faucet anymore.
The TCE pollution, which went undetected for years, is linked to cancer cases and deaths across South Tucson. Hundreds of residents, including Daggett, received financial settlements and major lawsuits. In 1983, the EPA listed Tucson as a Superfund site, where cleanup of the water has been underway until now.
This water treatment facility was designed to filter out 2 other toxic chemicals, but when PFAS arrived, city officials decided to shut it down.
Mayor Regina Romero says a stream of PFAS-contaminated groundwater more than 143 times above the suggested EPA safety level threatened to overwhelm the city's drinking water filters and resurfaced old fears.
We still have many families that lost loved ones because of TCE. And so it is It is palpable. It is present.
How dangerous is PFAS in your view? Is it as concerning as
It is as
TCE?
concerning. It is as concerning.
The Environmental Protection Agency does not require testing for PFAS and does not enforce a national standard for the maximum amount that's safe to drink. But in 2016, concerned by emerging data on adverse health effects, the EPA issued an advisory to local water systems, saying PFAS exposure over 70 parts per trillion may result in liver damage, weakened immune systems, and cancer.
The ones that are most strongly linked are kidney and testicular cancer. They can also have effects on developing babies and on women while they're pregnant.
Dr. Jamie DeWitt is a toxicologist and pharmacologist leading cutting-edge research on how PFAS affects the human body over prolonged exposure.
For those people who have PFAS in their bodies, there's not really anything that they can do to force them out of their bodies more rapidly. We don't have any drugs that will make you pee out PFAS really quickly. So if you're watching this and you're concerned about PFAS, you have to educate yourself. Where do you get your water, and what do you know about what's in your water?
Scientists with the Environmental Working Group in Washington have detected some amount of PFAS in groundwater or drinking water in nearly 2,800 American communities across 49 states.
The conclusion should be clear at this point that the water we drink is extremely tainted. After viewing these clips, you can see there is a clear agenda behind commercials like the one played in the very first clip of this video, with New York's Mayor Eric Adams essentially being a tap water salesman. This is not his first time doing this, of course.
A major about face from city officials who now say the water at the Jacob Riis houses is safe to drink after a contamination scare that lasted an entire week. Mayor Adams went there trying to reassure residents by having a glass of tap water himself. But as CBS 2's Dave Carlin reports, some people still don't trust the turn of events.
Jacob Riis houses residents are reeling from a week of water woes and mixed messages. Told their tap water was contaminated with arsenic. The city now claims that was not true after all. Attempting to demonstrate that it's now okay to turn the tap and drink water from the faucet was Mayor Eric Adams.
Nothing's better than New York City water. It is okay to drink the water. And I want to thank all the city agencies that came together to supply temporary water during the meantime. And we just, here to make sure that people know I'm drinking it. The water is safe to drink.
The mayor drank some from a faucet in a particular building right behind me, 118, but I'm still not a believer.
Okay, so we are here on the set, Mayor, back on the set. Are you ready to drink it?
Yeah,
okay.
My family and I drink the water every day, so. It's your standard tap water. You taste a little bit of the chlorine. All of our tests ever since this year have been comparable with what we used to get out of Detroit. Now, last year was different. The chlorine level was elevated. There were the TTHMs, which is actually colorless, but it's a concern. But those issues have been put behind us, and now I think it's more a matter of the perception.
So it is safe to drink, and you drink it every day. Your family uses it every day, you say, and also just a little taste. You said a little different taste, or?
Well, now it tastes very similar to any other tap water. It's got a little bit of a chlorine taste. I mean, look, anyone who gets used to drinking bottled water that's purified or distilled, that's going to be different than what you get out of a municipal tap. But we're testing it regularly. All of those tests are available online. So we want people to know exactly where the water stands, and we're continuing to improve it with the new carbon filter going in next week. It's just going to continue to get more dependable and more secure.
Now, John, I'm Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Ryback. The word Minneapolis means city of waters, and it's not an accident that that's the name of this beautiful city, because we are surrounded with lakes and rivers and some of the most wonderful, clean, clear drinking water of any city anywhere in the world. There are a lot of great reasons to live in Minneapolis, but one of the best is that you can walk right over here to the tap, open it up, take a drink of water, and it tastes better, and it's better for you than anything you can buy in a store. And you know what? You don't have to pay for it, and it won't produce any plastic bottles either. So here in the City of Waters, we want you to drink the water, We also want you to protect it. The water that flows into the Mississippi River, into our lakes, all comes from the stormwaters right in our gutters. So please make sure that nothing goes into the street that you don't want in the river that you swim in, the river that you get your fish from, or from our drinking water. So welcome to the City of Waters. Drink up. A toast to a great city. The City of Waters. Or ciao.
A new global study is laying waste to the supposed purity of most bottled waters. Researchers affiliated with the journalism organization Orb Media tested nearly a dozen brands of water purchased in countries around the world, and they found some disquieting things. David Common's been looking at that research. David here in studio with me. This is the largest investigation of its kind, as I mentioned, in a number of different countries. Tell us what it found.
So what they did is they went to a number of countries, Asia, North America, South America, Europe, and they pulled bottled water that was available on the shelves and sent it to a lab in New York, had it tested, and they were looking for microplastics. Those are extremely tiny pieces of plastic, the thickness of a human hair. And in many cases, they found them. In fact, in 93% of the bottles that were tested, brands that you know, Aquafina, Dasani, Nestle, the list goes on and on.
So international brands
Evian,
and not
San
any brand in particular. Wow.
No, yeah, all sorts of brands. In 93% of the bottles they tested, they found these microplastics. Now, in some cases, they were very, very tiny amounts. In some cases, they were thousands of particles in a liter of water. The average bottle would be about half a liter. So it gives you an idea that there can be a significant number of them actually out there. Wasn't found in every bottle, but it was certainly found in most, the overwhelming majority of the bottles that were tested. We know a few things about microplastics. We know that they exist all over the place. We know they're in tap water. We know that because Orb Media, this same group, actually did a test of tap water in many countries around the world. What they found is that there's actually less in the tap water they tested than in the bottled water they tested, which really is interesting to us because of the whole purity talk that goes on around bottled water.
There's been a lot of buzz about dubious chemicals in the environment that might contribute to some pretty frightening stuff like obesity, breast cancer, thyroid issues, and they seem to lurk everywhere. In pesticides, cosmetics, and especially plastic packaging. In light of this, it's understandable to start panicking. But before you do, let's hear what molecular biologist Bruce Bloomberg has to say on the subject. He's been studying the link between synthetic chemicals and obesity for around 15 years. So he might be able to give us a better idea of what's really going on and what to do about it. Bad news is, Bloomberg confirmed that yep, we're surrounded by these chemicals. One of the most well-known is BPA, or bisphenol A, which shows up in water bottles, cans, milk cartons, and more.
You get them from thermal paper receipts. Like I have these receipts from a recent trip. All of these things are coated with bisphenol A. And it goes right into your skin.
BPA has been making headlines for years about whether or not it's harming us. And while FDA-funded and independent studies have conflicting conclusions, the bigger heart of the issue is this. BPA is hard to get away from because it's a key building block in the tough, clear, flexible plastic called polycarbonate. And that proximity to food is what concerns scientists like Bloomberg.
You don't want to store food in plastics because some fraction of those plastics will leach into your food.
The BPA molecules that make up plastic are bound together by what's called an ester bond, which is extremely sensitive to heat. So when you heat up your food in plastic, that heat breaks some of the bonds, releasing the chemicals into your food. A survey by the CDC of 2,517 people estimated that over 90% of Americans have detectable levels of BPA in their urine. And BPA isn't alone. Phthalates, which make plastic flexible, can also leach into food when heated. And reviews of hundreds of studies have linked BPA and phthalates to heart disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. Not to mention, A 2015 review linked phthalates with impaired neurological development in children, which in 2018 prompted the American Academy of Pediatrics to announce that families should avoid plastic food containers entirely. And other studies on animals like mice and monkeys have shown that these chemicals can lead to problems in the lungs, brains, and reproductive organs. This is about the time someone like me would probably panic. But there are ways you can avoid these chemicals. Bloomberg suggests it's best to just stick to heating your food in anything but plastic.
One of the solutions would be to invest into a water filtration system. A reverse osmosis water filtration is really good from my knowledge, but drop in the comments some solutions you guys may have. Thanks for watching.
If you know how the food industry works, you might be aware that they regularly use on, let's say, cows or different farm animals with the purpose of making them allegedly not catch different kind of like farm animal diseases. Well, they're going to start using the mRNA as well, and there's some different experiments with this going on. They're even talking about using it on basic food. Even if you don't eat meat, some of the foods you might consume could now soon have mRNA in them, and people are naturally concerned about this.